what if someone gave you $1 the first day, $2 a second, $3 a third, and so on until 100 days or 1,000 or 1,000,000 days? And that's a idea or question that we covered last video. So if we add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus so on all the way to plus 100, the question is, what is the sum of all these numbers so you know how much you've gained over those 100 days? This is called the sum of consecutive numbers. And we use a different strategy to solve this in a very clever way. And there's another way to do it. And we're going to go through this new strategy so that we can create a generic formula or an equation that we can use to figure out the sum of consecutive numbers. So the new way I'm going to show through this example. So we have in the first row 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus all the way to plus 100. And what you do is just add 1 to 100 again and write it out in the second row. In the second row though, you want to go backwards. So you want to start at 100. So 100 plus 99 plus 98 plus all the way to 1. The reason why is because then in each pair, in each of the columns, the pairs will have a sum of 101 because 1 plus 100 is 101, 2 plus 99 is 101, 3 plus 98 is 101, 100 plus 1 is 101. So each of the pairs is going to be 101, and in total, we're going to have 100 pairs. So 100 pairs times 101 will give you 10,100. And then we have to remember the fact that we added 1 to 100 twice. So we need to divide this by 2 because there's 2 sets of them. So if you divide 10,100 by 2, you get 5,050. And that's exactly the answer that we got last time. So using this idea, we're going to create a generic formula to get the sum of the first n amount of consecutive numbers, starting from 1. So the way you do it is just let the amount of consecutive numbers be a variable. So in the first example, we went from 1 to 100. And to get the generic formula, you just go from 1 to n. And n can be any number. So we write it out again, starting just like last time in the example. What we do is start with 1, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus, and then you go all the way to n. N can be any number. It can be 100 if it's referring to the first example that we just did, or it can be 1,000 or 1,000,000. And if we use n, now it becomes more generic, so we can develop a formula for it. And then just like before, in our second row, we're going to count down. So we start from n. So we have in the second row n plus n minus 1 plus n minus 2 plus all the way to 1. Okay. And then we're going to pair up, just like the first example. Pair up the two rows, so 1 and n. That'll add up to n plus 1, because n plus 1 is n plus 1. And then you add up 2 and n minus 1. You pair them up, and then you add them. N minus 1 plus 2 is going to be n plus 1 again. And then you pair up 3 and n minus 2. N minus 2 plus 3 is again n plus 1. And then the final one, we got n1, so that is n plus 1. So each of the pairs is going to sum to n plus 1. And then the number of pairs that we have is n, because we have n columns. So the total sum is going to be n times, because there's n columns, and then each of the columns sum to n plus 1. So it's going to be n times n plus 1. And then again, just like last time, we need to divide by 2 because we added an extra 1 to n. So divide this by 2. So then our final formula is going to be n times n plus 1 all divided by 2. And this is our general formula for summing consecutive numbers from 1 to any number. So let's test it out and then end the video. Let's test out, let's say 100. So if someone gave you $1 the first day, $2 second, and $3 third, and then you go all the way to 100, then we can use this formula and we can sub in 100 for n. So 100 times 100 plus 1, all divided by 2, which gives you 100 times 101 in the numerator divided by 2, which gives you 10,100 divided by 2, which is $5,050. Great. What if someone gave you $1 the first day, $2 second day, for a whole year? So we know that there's 365 days in a year. So we go 365 times 365 plus 1 all over 2. And let's see how much that is. Then we get 365 times 366 divided by 2. And then in the end, we get 133,500. And then in the end, we get 133,590 divided by 2, which is equal to 66,795. Okay. If you have any other math concepts that you want me to go over, please leave it in the comments.